Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm your humble host, Mr. David Knoll, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray each and every day that each and every one of you will learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom from the universe. Now, I almost did a video about this earlier, and I thought, nah. And me and Doug have been down in the swamp, taking a friend down, showing him where the water is. We had 2 3/4 inches of rain here, on top of the water that had already fallen last week. The river was above flood stage for several days at almost 17 feet. Flood stage is 15. And I talked about being able to get in the kayak and go floating around in my backyard. And the water is even up higher now than it was the other last week when we had all that rain together. So, but the earth is filled full of water, which is a good thing for us. It's gushy everywhere in the backyard, and that's a good thing. But the river's went from about 9 feet to almost 13 feet in less than 2 days. So, that's quite a rise from the rain we've had. And there's still a lot of water in my yard that's got to go downstream. So this video is just, I haven't done an earth wobble update for quite a while. Observations have been a little difficult with a lot of cloudy skies down here in the evening time. So it's been difficult to keep an eye on where, certain constellations are. So, and during the wintertime, it's easy for me to check where we are in relationship because I use the constellation of Orion and Pleiades as to key where they are in the sky at night. And so last night, in between doing a couple of videos and being online, letting Duggar out and checking the stars and seeing where we were, I looked up and noticed that Orion was at least 60 degrees up in the sky, fairly high. And then I went to take a break to let Duggar back in, kind of thing, an hour or two later, and looked to see where Orion was, and it had set way to the southwest, which is not natural. And so it should have traversed the sky and set normally in the west. It's 4:20, so 4:21 actually. But so with this Earth wobble that I have been watching for a while, I thought to myself before I went to bed this morning, how did Orion start way up here and then end up way down there in the west from my position? So I've kind of scratched my head about that. And then, woke up. We went down in the woods with a friend and Duggar and played in the water a little bit. Came back up here and I'm checking, all the earthquakes that are going on. And I thought, now that's just strange because I've noticed that the earth has wobbled. And sometimes when I was monitoring my solar, excuse me, um, I'm trying to, a sundial. The sundial experiment that I did for 2 years was that sometimes we would be an hour early, sometimes we'd be an hour late, sometimes we'd catch up. It was really odd observations. And I've kept them up and have noticed because my house still sits in the same position, it hasn't changed. So I can look at the shadows in my window and tell, if there are no shadows in my window, it means that the sun is directly opposite from so there isn't a shadow line anyway. So all I have to do is just look at the windows and tell them, like, well, what time is it and where's the shadows in my windowsill? But last night when Orion abruptly dropped to the southwest, consequently, if the earth is wobbling and kind of tipped downwards, then it would have, that would explain why all of the earthquakes, because I just could not figure out how Orion went from way up there to way down there in 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So What this means, I don't know, other than, in my humble opinion, it proves that the Earth is wobbling, and it's showing up by even more massive earthquakes. We went through a solar storm a day or so ago recently. I didn't check the Schumann, and I meant to. Let me do that real quick. Hi, Doug, Ian, Jody, how are you? I just want to jump on up here and say that, from where you are, if you can observe the stars, um, it would be interesting to see other observations. And last night I saw the UFO again. It's been consistent, except this time it was much lower in the sky than normal, but almost in the same position. So it means it's closer to the horizon, meaning it's further south, but its location is always within a certain area of me looking south. And it's been there consistently. It wasn't there early this morning, but it was there earlier last night. But anyway, what that has to do with the grand scheme of things, I'm still scratching my head. We had a little bit of a bump in the Schumann about 6 hours ago, 8 hours ago, and in a way that would almost kind of sort of um, go along with the earthquakes in my observations of how quickly Orion set in the southwest. Um, it just odd. I was like, where the hell did Orion go? I had to go up the hill and look where normally I can see it just standing out here in the yard. So um, I thought early this morning, I thought something's up. The earth has really made a big wobble. It must have just rolled up. The way I look at it is a ball. I'm sorry, I don't think it's flat. Um, you watched it, Doug, move to the southwest. It really seems to, I mean, it dipped really quick. There are times when over the course of the night it will go that way, but it went from a really good, obvious position here to within 2 hours, it was way down in the southwest this morning. Yeah, and also too, and I've tried, I've pondered this for quite a while, and then I've meditated on this, and watching, Dutch Sense and different folks, and watching the earthquakes and my own stuff, or look at Mount Etna, and so there's lava flow, there is lava moving, magma moving under the earth, and the way it was explained to me from the source was that it's a wheel out of balance. So all of this thick magma is moving around in the earth underneath us. We're basically sitting on fluid, there is a fluidity about it. We're like sitting on, we're islands on lava kind of thing. And so, but as the earth is spinning, this lava, it spews out over here and it does this thing over here. So Mount Etna is on the other side of the planet, kind of sort of through the earth to where these earthquakes have been going off. So it's sort of like an action reaction. And so when magma comes out like at Etna and other places that are still spewing, the earth gets out of balance. And so it goes to wobbling, just like a tire on a vehicle that, has lost a wheel weight or something. And so, but the observation is something weird is going on. I like Dutch Sense and Diamond, but they hate each other. Yeah. It went in about an hour and a half for me. Yeah, well, I was doing the live feed last night, so but I checked it, and it was about 2 hours in between, and but so that hour and a half, yep, 2 hours, some kind of major battle. Um, yeah, the major battles wouldn't put us out of um, balance earthwise with the magma. But the recent activity in Italy and you know Mount Etna and others and things um, can put us in a wobble. So it's been fairly stable. I've kept an eye on it. But what's been interesting is like, you know, does some of the ET have anything to do with this? I'm just saying, earthquake machines. And is somebody trying to, is there a warning going on? Now, to your point, Jody, about battles going on underneath, the battles that may be true, you know, and they're using earthquake type machines to like rattle their cages if they're way down deep. And so there are bases everywhere from different kinds of races, et cetera, et cetera. So because it was sort of shallow, you know, anything that's 10 kilometers or about 6.5 miles ish kind of thing, you have to scratch your head. Oh, Cinnabon, yeah, it blew big yesterday. Right, exactly. Hey, Delaney, how you doing, cuz? Stand your ground, Pearl. Um, I like that, Pearl. You know, that might be easier for me to remember. Delaney Pearl Jones. Hey, Pearl. That I like that. I was in a play called Pearly Victorious, and it was a really good play. I played the old white cotton slave owner, Captain Kochepee, and which was a hoot to play an old white Southern man that just wanted to keep his Negroes in place anyway. It was written by Ossie Davis, a black man. So for folks to go, well, what's that? It was written by a black man, and it was a musical as well. It was on stage. It was on Broadway. Anyway, it was fun to be in. But well, I went to sing along. Yeah. But anyway, so I just, after seeing all the earthquakes and stuff, that's just a curiosity. But, like Doug, you having an observations of you saw Orion do the same thing. So we're collaborating our own story. What does that mean? Well, if I'm in an earthquake prone area, I would just be aware, not be scared, but damn sure be aware because those great big earthquakes, and I think another one went off at about eight. I'm like on the Richter scale, eight, not at eight, but so there's been two sevens and an eight and all the aftershocks. So there's something big rumbling. Somebody's moved something. There is the earth is a moving. But with the volcanoes going off as well, if you live in a volcanic area, I would just be careful. There may not be lava coming up, but or magma. It turns into lava anyway. We get it. But I think, but because of these disturbances, that's got the magma underneath the planet out of whack. You know, it's a tire that's missing a wheel, a balance, a weight to keep it in balance. So as we're spinning, trying to keep an eye on where the sun is. March 15th around there will be about halfway in the sky for me as far as solar energy, because right now, a month, 6 weeks ago, the sun was way low, and now it's way up in the higher windows in my house. So, but that's normal for this time of year. But there are times when it seems like within a day, one day I'm looking out and I can see the sun through this lower window, and the next day it's in the higher window within a day. And it's like, so that means my house ain't moving, I don't think, but that means we're doing this number here. So the sun's over here one day or 2 days in a row, and then the next day I can see it through this window, which is lower. I should not be seeing it this time of year in the lower window, except maybe barely, because as the Earth goes around in the solar system, because of its tilt, Australia will be going into wintertime for them. Their our spring is their fall. So in our spinning around in the solar system, and us wobbling like this, so we come around and it's 334. Yeah, high slightly slanted. Um, every time our heart beats, it's a billionth of a heartbeat. Yeah, I've been, my spirit has been inclining me to do a drum as a heartbeat. And so it's like, um, I don't have any particular, not, I don't necessarily mean reason to do a ceremony. Um, I kind of sort of did one early this morning with the sage and just gave a brief, talking about smoke and other things. And um, speaking of which, just y'all hang on. Hey, hey, Duggar. I was talking about if somebody didn't have sage and you wanted to do a ceremony. Here's my buddy right here. See his butt. But anyway, ferns. I think this is from a Leland pine. I'm not sure, but you dry this and then, or if you, it's because it's really hard to light when it's green. So, but you pick some of this and you let it dry. I was mentioning juniper, um, and also cedar is good to burn if you don't have any. If you can't get sage as a sacred herb, if you will, to do a ceremony. So, but anyway, I picked some of that when I was down there, and I thought I would share that for those who were late in the chat last night. Hi, Michelle. Love you too. Ian Howe looks more like Lawson's. Pineapple. But anyway, I just wanted to get on here for a few minutes and see how short I could make this video without going 5 hours long, Michelle. And the other thing is that, while the sun's still up a little bit, I want to go out in the back and drag my kayak into the water because it's still, 4 more hours. Yeah. Uh, now here's something else, since y'all are here and we can talk. During this last day, there seems to be a time I'm trying to figure out a good word. It's sort of like a time displacement. I mean, I know I'm here and I did videos last night and this, but there seems to be somehow there's been a time jump or something. It's really difficult for me to like process. And the Schumann, we had a little bit of fuzz, but nothing to really write home about. We've had some really, strong impulses. So the Schumann was up a little bit, but nothing to really write home about. As I repeat myself, but it seems earlier today when I got up and we went down into the back, went through the woods, came back, hung out, took a little nap, and woke up, and it just seemed like I had jumped in time. And I don't mean from the clock. I mean, it's a really odd sensation. But anyway, but in looking at the Schumann and different things and stuff, it's like we were kind of sort of warned there, that on the 4th and 5th and certain days and during March that we may be experiencing some of this. So it's like it just is an odd feeling. So anyway, wanted to mention that too. And if any of y'all have felt something similar today, um, it's as an observation. So lots was supposed to have happened today and on the 6th and on another date and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, beware the Ides of March. So, and that could be the warning for us. There are a lot of folks that are, they were like, oh, there was going to be rioters in DC today because of the QAnon and all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, man, I just don't feel it, see it, or otherwise. But it feels like there's been a time jump. I cannot explain that. Or maybe they time jumped me and put me back down here. As I've talked about, there are times when I feel like I've been taken off planet for whatever reason and wherever I go. And then I wake up and go, where was I, just now? Was that really just a dream? Or there are dreams and I know they're dreams. And then there are times when it's like, what the F just happened here? So, but anyway, there's oddities going on. I know the UFOs that I've been observing from here have been very consistent in when it's not cloudy, in me being able to go out there and spot them right away. And I've done too much observation to know that they're not stars, because the other night it was way up high in the sky and there was another one just below it, and the two of them stayed there for the longest time. Anyway, sing along. But then the next night it was within the same parameters in the sky, but about 2 fingers lower in the sky if you hold it out. And then last night it was lower still and to the left a little bit. So by about 4 degrees from my observation point. So, but basically in the same area of the sky. So I haven't seen any weird activity except the other night when there were 2 of them. I was like, now that's interesting. Then that was about let's see, it rained 2 nights ago. So it was before the rain. Or what? Wait a minute. Anyway, it's been recently. And last night for sure, and early this morning it was there. And I mean, I come and do a live stream, and then I go out and get the dog or let him out or something, and my observations. And when you go back to the same spot and look in the same area, and it's still there, a star or planet, but there's nothing that low in the sky, would have moved out of frame. This stays in the same position. That's why I know it could be hours, I don't know, but it's been there. And there was a while there, even though we had clear nights, that UFO wasn't there. So, any attempts to try to figure out what it is on my part is just like haven't gotten anywhere. Ain't no military going to say, oh yeah, we got something sitting off the panhandle down there in Florida off the Gulf Coast. Yeah, okay, sure. But anyway, it's just observations. But what does it mean to me and you and the next guy? Hey, Doug, how are you? Today has jumped to 3 different days for me at a high energy. Yeah, I don't know if that's what it is, but it's something time warpy, because was down in the woods early for me today, tromping through the water and checking it out. And oh my God, Duggar was so muddy when he come out of that woods. Oh my goodness. He's loving it now that the water's up. But um I don't want him to jump wet ass in the kayak with me though. But anyway, um the between the time I went to sleep, 5 o'clock this morning, my time, um, and then waking up about 10 and walking and going down in the woods and then taking a nap and waking up and me and Duggar were doing some things. It was just I was walking around going, checking where the water was and my foundation after that, checking the around here and how gushy the land is, and just as I'm walking around, I'm going, and not really stoned, mind you. So, but just like I just felt like I from the time I took that hour nap, I had jumped in time somehow. But I look at the clock and I go, well, no, it's almost 5 o'clock now, but quarter till. But the hour nap felt like about 3 or 4, and in it, it felt like I had like bounced a couple of. It's like doing, doing, wake up. Anyway, have no idea what it means, but that's sort of the feeling. But to the time jump or warping or something, or I don't know. Um, but anyway, energy wise, it feels weird. I don't feel bad about it. I mean, it doesn't feel like there's anything destructive in it, but it's damn sure different. We change the future. Um, I think all of us are always changing the future. Although there are some very strong beings and other energies that, as hard as we would try to thwart their efforts, the best we could do would be to slow them down some, which is if you can slow that train down before it crashes into the station, with all those people there, then that has the tendency to be a good thing. You know what I mean? But so I don't want to keep you all. I want to go down in the woods and go jump in the kayak for a little bit and see what I can do about floating around and how deep it is in places and etc. Because this time tomorrow it will be much shallower, so it'll go down that much. Maybe it's just amazing how a couple of inches of rain will bring the river up by 2 or 3 feet, and I mean like within a day. So, um, flash flooding, there are folks here in South Georgia that are sort of used to this, but folks south of us down in Florida, them folks down there are catching hell because of all the water that's headed their way. And the water's up a little here, more than it was a week ago, but it's still not the floods that we used to get at least once a year, which would be at least another foot higher in my backyard. And so I'm not bitching. I'm not complaining. I'm glad to see the water. It's recharging. There are places along the edge of the hill where water is the pressure above me, and there's so much water in the ground. It's literally there are little springs that are popping up where water is coming out. It's clean water, fresh, kind of thing, but it's not a spring like bubbling. It just meandering out of the hill. It's like somebody squashing the hill like a sponge, and the water is coming out and going. So there's water all along the back hill and right down, right behind the house. Um, it's really gushy for a ways. It's gushy. I mean, you sink down that much in the mud, and there are more. There are some spots that are more. Um, there's more clay, but it's gushy for a long. It's gushy for a long way. Yeah. But anyway, so be safe, be careful, sloshing, absolutely. I'm gonna change pants and change shoes, and me and Doug are gonna go down and slosh around in a little bit before the sun goes down. but I just wanted to get on here and kind of just keep an eye on the position of the sun, and use some reference, a shadow or something in a window, a tree in your yard, a lamp post. Use something that you can say, use as a stationary point. If you're looking at the stars, always go to the same spot to observe it, because I can walk out in my yard or up the hill and it changes the perspective. So, and if you're making the observation on a daily basis or nightly, then you always do it from the same location. That's very important. Um, but then pick, like, I've got this big oak tree right over the house, and I can use its limbs to tell me where it is. So I've got nature as my background in order to check the degree of angle and where it sets, and the shed and the barn, all that anyway. So 30 minutes and 59. Cheers, Hawkeye. Yeah. Ciao for now, myself, Ian. Gracias. And prayers, namaste. And a new record for being short. Absolutely. And I'm going to keep it too. You're not going to talk me out of it, Michelle. Because I really do want to go throw the kayak in. It's too nice outside right now, and there are no bugs. Ooh, and it's going to be chilly tonight. So, shh, there aren't any mosquitoes at the moment. So, good time in the swamp when there aren't any skeeters. So, y'all be safe. I got my get her done hat on. So, whatever this energy is, just kind of, if it feels different to you, understand that feeling different doesn't necessarily mean bad. So if you're feeling kind of woozy or off or something's different, just sit back and just be that conscious observer, and watch both sides. Well, this could I relate this to mushroom trips and LSD and other things, in that if things got a little wacky, you had to get control by just holding still in your thoughts. Well, ooh, this is freaky. And then the other side would go, not really. Quit looking at it as freaky. It's different. Yeah, but so you have to just mellow out. Jody, good to see you, my friend. I'm playing some good old fashioned air hockey. Cool beans. 10,000 earthquakes in Iceland. Holy crap. Hi, Enlightened One. How are you? Holy crap. Yeah. So, but like I said earlier, remember that the earth is fluid, in that the plates are sitting on a lot of magma and stuff, and we're riding around it. Having grown up on the carnival, I equate it sort of like the tilt-a-whirl. I know the tilt-a-whirl is flat, but the track goes up and down as you go around. So you're doing this up and down motion like this, but also the tub is swinging, and it could be swinging to the right, or depending on the angle, it will turn back around. Ever been on a tilt-a-whirl? So, but I take that around in a circle and kind of think of it as in the planet, the tubs are sitting on what the folks in the business call a bull plate. And so the bull plate is the continents. And we're sitting on the track, which is basically the lava and magma under us. And so when too much is going over here, and tire goes out of balance, and the tire's low on air, and things get wobbly. And, a couple of, my truck, I didn't realize that one of the tires had a slow leak. And I was wondering why I felt a little wobbly in the ass end, right? I mean, I don't drive that fast. And I was like, and the tire was low. So, I've lost the air pressure in a tire, driving at 45 miles an hour equals blah, blah, blah. So the earth is much like that in that way. So as it pops off over here and things move, it's going to crash into other things. And how are you, Enlightened One? It's very good to see you. Mossy Man, Wow, cool beans. And speaking, Jody, speaking of air hockey, in a way, how the puck slides across the air on a table, in a way, the continent and the plates are similar in that they're being held up by the magma underneath. So, um, and to my point about that, no one has ever said, that we drilled down into the earth and that it was solid all the way down. You know what I mean? They drill down, then they hit magma or something, or they hit pockets of oil or whatever. But has anybody really drilled down deep, sure enough, quote, to the core, and where they haven't run into magma? You know that it's rock all the way. You know, so, and to that point though, which is just kind of stresses what I'm trying to explain. And sometimes in these meditations, I'll go, so we got earthquakes. I'll go, what's going on? And they'll give me this picture of the earth doing this, kind of moving around and shuffling and shucking and jiving, and it's floating, and things are changing, and the magma has slowed or sped up, or Oh, you know about me in the Silent 72s. Yeah. Um, I have not said anything about that in a while. Um, because it didn't seem necessary, but I have been getting some messages here brain wise that to make sure that, because things are really getting hairy, that, the Silent 72s are all y'all in one way or another are a Silent 72, in that because that you're working for the planet, you're working for humanity, which is what Dante and the Christus are all about. They want to try to save humanity, and the planet, um, from some really nasty folks. So, but with all the other crises and everything going on, it just seemed like, and I think that even through some of the stuff that Dante was doing, there seems to be not necessarily a lull in the storm, but everybody's taking a deep breath. And I think it's fixing to get hairy one way or the other. Um, and it could very well be that what's going on down in the Pacific down there uh, are earthquake type devices, where the good guys and the bad guys. Yeah. And one question I've always wondered is there something to that hollow earth theory, not quite how a science book says there is the inner outer core, all that, just curious. Um, I have, I read Jules Verne as a kid back in the 60s and the journey to the center of the earth. And back in my day, it was still sort of fresh in our minds about Admiral Byrd. Okay. He was on black and white television, and we knew who Admiral Byrd was. And he talked about going to the North or South Pole and being able to fly in and all that. And a lot of people were like, what? But he's, so, but anyway, in that, there are portals, and as science has discussed, so we know that the enemy can, and we can do it as well. But the enemy has cloaking devices. So you say, well, there's nothing there when there is. You know what I mean? I mean, Cheech and Chong did it in the movie with a swimming pool kind of thing, growing weed underneath it, and they had a swimming pool. Oh my God, that was funny. Um, Yeah, Agartha. But so what I was thinking of and how they presented it to me was that there is an internal sun, if you will, and that is a plasma type generated thing. And it has a lot and everything to do with the electrical part of the earth. But more hollow core because the Earth is expanding. It's moving out this way. And so back in the days of the Egyptians, they don't really discuss it too much, but I think that the continents were a lot closer together 2 or 3 thousand years ago. This continental drift and so forth, and the idea that the Earth was Pangea, it was one big island. And you can tell. So, over 2 or 3 thousand years, you say, well, it was a long way from Egypt. Maybe it really wasn't, because the Earth has been expanding all this time. So certain coastal areas there were maps way back in the 1500s that are so accurate. How did they get the coastline so flippin' accurate without a satellite? I mean, these guys were great. I've got some old maps and stuff of Florida and different places, and they're accurate. And they didn't have no flipping airplane when they did them. They were done in the late 1800s and from boats and observation. And oh my God. But anyway, so the Earth, if you think about a giant ball in space, okay, that you could live on this side of the ball and live on the other side of the ball. And with enough, there wouldn't be near as much need for gravitational pull at the center, if you will, versus, and I equate that to being on. I used to run the merry-go-round, okay, an ancient 1912 merry-go-round. It was great, wooden horses and brass and everything. Hey, BLT, love you, cosmic hugs to you, sweetie. I'm always sending prayers your way. But anyway, so it was easy to get onto the merry-go-round from the inside of the merry-go-round, and you could just step on. But as you walked further out, it got faster and faster in centrifugal force. So when you got off, you were going 3 times faster to get off than you were when you got on. So, and as a kid, we used to play with that and how fast the merry-go-round would go and this, that, and the other thing. But it had a top speed, and that was a good thing because it'd sling your ass right off if you were careful. And getting on from the outside because it was going so fast. So we learned how to take one giant step. You watched the rail come by and you learned how to time it just right to where you took a step, you grabbed the pole and stepped onto it and became that speed. It's a really weird sensation from going from a dead stop to whirling on a merry-go-round, But anyway, so in a way, though, the Earth is like that. So on the inside cone, if you will, it's like the inside ring of a merry-go-round. It's not going as fast. Where on the outside, we're slinging and hauling tail out here. Yeah, I think several of us have had him on our minds lately, Michelle. I know it seems like my brother has not really passed on. He's just on the other side, which is interesting because there are times I think, man, it's got to be Brian. It's got to be him because there's that laugh that sticks to my head. But anyway, I'm grateful for all the things above and below. And whether it's called Agartha, I understand all the names and so forth, and there might be a lot to that. But I just there for whatever reasons they say that may not really be the name of Agartha may not really be the name. Okay, all right, but we know what we mean by Agartha. Yeah, okay, all right. So I can use it sort of as it's similar. Is that a simile? Or oogly, or never mind. But the planet itself is expanding. And so whatever the cosmic rays are doing that have been shown on the graphs and everything, it's not like I'm making this up. So, but in waking up to it and checking and going, oh, look what just happened. And was it Doug that was discussing his observation of Orion dropping in the low in the southwest this morning too. So um, my point to all of this is, even in Appalachia, there it's prone to um, earthquakes and changes. And if there are big enough ones on the other side of the planet, there's going to be some shucking and jiving and shifting and things. And so I would just say that be aware if you're in an area that could have one, where I'm living here on top of this clay and with limestone underneath us. Not too much chance of having an earthquake. But they've had them in the panhandle of Florida and southern Alabama over there. So, and that's really not that far from me. But I'm not like sitting on the New Madrid or something. So, depending on where you live, and make sure you check that at 2.5 for me around here, because there's no fault lines. Um, that wouldn't be traumatic, but my house ain't going to fall down. But if I'm living on the West Coast somewhere where that could happen, I would just make sure I got stuff tied down. If it's you got breakables on a shelf, put them in an area. Make sure that. And here's something interesting. Robert V and I were talking about this offline before we got online last night, and thank you all who were there. That if you have all of your emergency supplies in your house, in a room, in a closet, in the basement or something, and something happens to your house, how do you get where's your how are you going to get to your stuff? Where is your emergency stuff? So that is something to consider. That I'm talking about different, earthquake zones or whatever. Maybe it's a fire prone or something, but is your emergency gear in a place where, not that you have it for an emergency, or that you can get it and get out of your house if something happens to your house or dwelling or whatever, so that you can have your emergency gear? So I was thinking, I've got a trailer out here that I got all my camping gear and stuff. And I was, bragging about, yeah, I got this and that. And it's all stored out there, not in the house. It's in a metal container, but then I thought, but I don't have a sleeping bag out there. I don't have anything like to keep me warm. There's, not an extra set of clothes or anything. As far as being like in an emergency. Now I got a lot of other gear that I could take up with it. Hey, Robert V, I'm talking about you. Yeah, I had a good time with you again last night. I always like hanging out with you once every 2 weeks. It's great for brothers to get together and just kind of share stuff we've learned. But anyway, so I was talking about what you and I had discussed, in that, now this doesn't mean everybody, but you must consider it. I didn't plan on my house burning down when it did. And so, all you got on your back is your shirt and a pair of pants and no shoes or socks because you had to run out of the house in the middle of the night. So we should think about possibly, if you're in a prone area for something now, that you should think about that and say, well, I got this stuff, but it's in the basement, or I got it, it's stored over there. Or can you get to it if you had to? And just say, well, maybe I should just put it closer to the door, or maybe I should put it over here, or but just think about that if you're in a particularly prone area of earthquakes or something like that, because the amount that's been going on right now, and the wobble that was observed this last night, and it's been kind of working its way around. The earth has got to rebalance itself. So there's going to be some more earthquakes in diverse places, if you want to quote the Bible. And not to scare anybody, but hang on. We were told this time of the 21st century, 2021 was going to have some changes in the earth and, all that kind of stuff. So here we are. So don't be scared, be prepared, kind of thing, right? So I'm going to leave it to y'all. I'm going to keep this under an hour, Michelle. I was only going to keep it to 30 minutes. And then Richard, how are you? I want to go down in the backyard and go floating before it gets dark. So yeah, I've got a couple of backpacks, but and they're usually in my truck. But the thing is, I don't have a sleeping bag. Just saying. But I love you all and thank you so much. I'm so proud for every one of you that you are my friends that I know you, Cosmic Cugs, and I, have been saying blessings all morning. And keep an eye on whether or not you feel like there's been some kind of time shift differential. If you feel like something, you look around and you go, wait a minute, it's not a deja vu moment. It's like, I know I'm here and I don't, but wait a minute, did something just happen? It just keep an eye on that. I'd be curious yeah, I got sleeping bags, but I don't have one that I could just grab and run out of the house with, is my point. My house would be very difficult to burn down because of all the concrete. And I planned that on purpose because of the house that burned down. Okay. So, and windows don't burn, and a lot of my house is windows. So, anyway, not saying that it couldn't, I'm just saying it would be more difficult. Um, but at the same point, there could be a storm or a tornado or something. And also something, yeah, they're asking me to discuss this, that with the wobble that's going on and how the planet is floating on magma, um, it's expanding, but there's also things happening within our atmosphere. And it's been discussed, and it's like um, it's hot and cold at the same time, and it creates a hole in the atmosphere to where it just stuff goes up or out, sort of not necessarily like a vortex, but uh, weather portals of a sort, where it just the upper atmosphere, um, take a wiffle ball, and it's got holes in it, and so but most of the time, uh, the atmosphere covers those holes. So, but then if something from space hits a certain part of that wiffle ball, a golf ball with holes in it, or that one of those holes will open up, and it'll be like immediately cold, and because it's getting air from space being drawn down all the way to the earth, and there's a name for it, but I can't remember it. But Spirit was asking me to convey that to you, that they're really strange anomalies, but it's almost getting like somebody blasting you with extremely cold air from outer space, just right down to the earth, like a beam, just boom. And some of these things can be several miles. Um, I would say sort of like in a diameter, because things in nature have a tendency to pick round, swirling things in the water. It goes around, it doesn't go square. When water goes over a rock, it'll tumble in a circular motion, not triangular or square. You know what I'm saying? So, in the natural order of the universe, with the circle of life, so these holes in the atmosphere that's been described, um, so you might be out in the middle of the desert and one of these things open up so over your head that you're not even aware of, and you get blasted by colder than Arctic air. So why are certain areas getting nailed with really cold weather? And it may be that the quote Arctic vortex is pulling in really cold air from the universe, from outside, from space, and drawing it down into the earth and giving us these really cold blasts of air. Because where else is it coming from? Does the ice, think about this, does the ice manifest or manufacture the cold? Well, something had to be cold before it to make the ice. So does, you know, so the ice, it could just stay there at a constant temperature. But so then where do these blizzards come from on the North or South Pole? Well, it's generated from what? Well, to me, you know, being is at the opposite ends of the ball kind of deal, that the polar vortex would be pulling in, it would be pulling in air from space and shoving it down onto the planet. Because I'm like, where does I've always wondered, well, where's the cold air coming? Well, from the North Pole. Yeah, but is there some guy up there cranking out the cold? You know what I'm saying? So, what's the explanation in my lifetime of where in the hell's that cold air coming from? Well, it's moving in from, you know, from Russia. Yeah, so the Russians are making the cold air. Well, you know, we've had this front move over the pole. Okay, but to my point though, that it seems logical a spinning ball would have a tendency, you know, if I've watched the water in the river all my life, right? So water comes in and it comes around something and it starts a swirl like this. And it takes everything that's in that area, a leaf or a little pebble or something like that, and it takes it down in that little whirlpool. So if the earth is spinning, it just seems to me that the vortex over the poles is pulling in frigid air from the space. So there's our cold air. It's not being manufactured. It's being pulled in from outer space. And you know, so if we're having magnetic issues with our atmosphere and the planet, and one of these little vortexes opens up to outer space, it could hit the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It could, you know, it could hit here, you know, so it would just be one of those things. A spiral of sorts, absolutely. Um, Richard, I think today's Thursday. I'm pretty sure I had to check myself. Thor's Day, I got it. There you go. Um, but that's what I meant earlier, Richard, by having this feeling of some kind of time jump or some kind of, I don't know what it is. It ain't a bad thing. But it has been a strange observation today. Out of kilter, but not necessarily in a bad way. Just odd. So, my friends, it's almost an hour. I swear to God, I'm going to keep it under an hour just because I want to go put the kayak in the back in the water. I want to go play around in the water before it gets dark. But anyway, I love you all. Be safe, okay? And I promise their spirits asking me, they're telling me they're kicking my butt. I got to go bless the water, as someone suggested, and they want me to do a drum. It's been too wet outside to do a drum, but they want me to do a drum and a fire and just a simple fire ceremony, nothing in particular, but to keep our prayers going, and to keep sacred, which has been sacred for many, many thousands of years among Native peoples. And that, I don't know, lighting the sage. I'm always praying to the universe, but lighting sage and taking the time to give north, south, east, west, above, below, and inside that blessing. And it just feels good at the end, you know, while you're doing it. And especially if you're feeling a little stressful, if you just do that little 1, 2, 3, 4 up, down, and inside deal and mean it, you know, and sit for a couple of minutes, you will feel like, at least I have. There are times when I'm just like, man, I feel like crap. Let me do a little, you know, quick sage here, if you will, and then end up, you know, and go, wow, I sure am glad I did that. So be safe. And yeah, you too, everybody. Um, Good night, Richard. BLT, thank you. We're always giving you hugs. You know you're not alone, Miss BLT. We love you. We love you. We love you. So, and if you ever need anything or need to talk or something, you let one of us know, okay? You please, okay? So, With that, have a good afternoon, my friends. Stay warm, stay dry, stay safe as you can. And I continue to pray, and I do absolutely mean this, that I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And 2 times 2 is I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive and to share the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and those blessings of the universe. Remember, we're all the soul tribe. We're all members of the League of Like-Minded Beings. We are all together, especially when we pray. And praise not a bad word, because we're not worshiping the universe. We're saying thank you to the universe for what we have. I continue to pray in the law of three that's always good for me. I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom of the universe, because we are all shamans in training. I know I am. So keep up the faith, keep up the good work, keep on smiling, keep on trucking. I'm going to go play in the water in the backyard. I got a giant mud puddle that's calling me. At 68 and a half, I still want to go play in the mud. I love you all. Be safe. I'll let you know how it goes. Bye, y'all. Be safe. Michelle, Project, Miss BLT, Project, all y'all that I missed. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Bye.